Our due or guest date roughly was like 18th to the 22nd of February. And so I felt myself starting to go into the portal, birth portal, wanting to go more inward and get away from social media and people and just hibernate for a bit about 3 weeks before that date. I guess you have in your mind that a baby can come anywhere from 37 to 42-ish or more weeks. So yeah, I just started to surrender to that process in case she decided to come earlier in that window. I call it the drop zone. And I started to get things happening, little things here and there, go to the toilet, let everything go sort of things, and little surges here and there that didn't quite feel like Braxton Hicks, because I was getting a lot of Braxton Hicks throughout this pregnancy, much more so than I'd felt in a previous pregnancy. And so it was this on off for like 2 to 3 weeks, this prodromal labor of my body was getting me ready. But every time you feel something, you're like, oh, is it happening? Is it on? And you start to get excited. And then the more it happens, the more deflated you start to become. This time I had decided I didn't want to really do any even natural kind of induction or intervention type things. I was just going to let her choose her date that she needed to arrive because she knew that. And that was what I tried to take away from my previous birth and lesson with my older daughter. That full surrender, but it's easier said than done. So I definitely didn't succeed in that. And then, I spoke to some practitioners and got some amazing bodywork done and some acupuncture done. And it reaffirmed for me that stuff is just helping my body to get ready. It's, aligning hormones, and we're not doing anything too aggressive that's, telling baby she has to come out now. It's eviction time. So all of those things that I was doing were really aiding and supporting setting my body up for the best success when the day finally came. So the guest date came and went. And, I wasn't really paying too much attention to that because I had, from the start of this pregnancy, told myself, focus on 42 weeks because I will have a baby in my arms by the end of 42 weeks. I started to get closer and closer to 42 weeks. And my birth keeper or doula actually said to me, why are you focusing on the numbers at all? Maybe it's worth just letting go of that completely because she will come out eventually. She won't stay in there forever. As much as I may have been joking with a certain someone that I might just end up with a full-grown human coming out of me. And yeah, so I struggle with that concept because I am a numbers person and I like to look at, and plan and all of that kind of thing. And I was doing some journaling one morning in that 41st week. It's just good to have a marker, I guess. But I was journaling like, it's time to release the numbers. It's time to actually let go of this because, yeah, there'll be a baby at some point in the next week or so. And I need to stop driving myself crazy over every little twinge and every little feeling. And literally, I think it was like a day or two after I did that journaling when she came. But obviously she needed to come eventually. So yeah, if you go off like the 18th of February as our due date, which was based on my period, my one period that I had between the pregnancies, she was 42 and 1. And I think it's important to acknowledge that not because of the numbers, but more so because it's normal to have a longer gestation. And because I had chosen to birth at home and then even more so without assistance from a medical professional, I didn't have anybody calling me up or pushing me for an induction, which probably made me relax a lot more, which meant that my baby wasn't feeling unsafe and feeling the need to come out. Often I think, from past experience as well, when you know that date is coming up and you know that perhaps people are going to start hassling you about certain things, it's almost like a survival mechanism of like, oh God, I've got to get this baby out before they start hassling me with interventions. And then the morning of the 5th of March, it was a Saturday, we'd had takeout for dinner the night before and we were super relaxed and had an early-ish night. I got woken up at 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom, which was fairly normal in that late stage of pregnancy. And I went and emptied my bowels a few times, but didn't really feel any surges or anything. But I just, in hindsight, I can say I had an inkling that maybe something was happening. I was feeling different. I'll say that. I was feeling very different that morning. But I kept saying to myself, my mantra was kind of, labor will find you. Stop looking for it. Labor will come to you. You don't need to go hunting for it. So anything that I was feeling, I was trying not to get attached to or think about too much. So I was watching Netflix at 2 a.m. in the morning, laying in the spare room. And I think by 3:30, and I'd been a couple more toilet trips, I started to feel some sensations, some cramp-like sensations in my lower belly. And it was kind of like period pain, whereas before it had been more spasmy. So it was the first time I was getting that like period pain cramp in and I was like, oh, okay, I think we're on, but I'll just lay here and just close my eyes and breathe through each one. And they were pretty regular. I'd just kind of glance at the clock. I'd do my counts 4 in, 8 out for each sensation. And I was getting through about 4 to 5 breaths. So I kind of knew they were roughly 30 to 45 seconds, about 5 minutes apart. And they were coming pretty regularly from the start. And I was like, okay, all right, things are happening. I'm going to get up. So by this time it was probably like, timeline will be a bit iffy. I lost all sense of time. But yeah, maybe like 4 or 4:30, I hopped out of bed and started pottering around and doing some things. I had this intention that I was going to do a macrame piece. I think I did 3 knots and then I was like, fuck this. I cannot do this. The surges are coming quite thick and fast. And then I went to the toilet again. I was like, okay, sitting here for a while, I'll get up. And it was closer to 6 by this stage. And I thought to myself, if I get another surge now, leaving the bathroom after I've just had one on the toilet, I'll light my labour candle because I think we're there. I think things are happening. And even if they don't, I won't get attached to it. Like just having this little conversation with myself in my head. So we've got this Gaia statue. I put it in the kitchen with my labour candle, a little moonstone gemstone. I just lit the candle and I said, we're ready to meet you. Today is the day. Really excited. And then just before 6, Matty and Mads woke up. My intention was to let them wake up naturally because I had a 30-hour labour previously. In my head, I was like, if we're in for the long haul, because I hadn't mentally prepared for a long one. I hadn't mentally prepared for a long one last time. And so in my head, I was like, if it is long, I want my support team to be rested. And so they woke up naturally at 6 o'clock and I'm just sitting there at the bench breathing. And actually, I was not sitting down. I was standing. I was swaying and breathing through a surge. I look over at Matty and he's like, oh, it's on today. He's like, you've lit a candle. Things are different. This is obviously happening. Like, what do you need from me? How can I support you? My toddler's running around. We're telling her baby's coming today. Very exciting. And so I started noticing things around the house that were pissing me off. Like there was some dirt on the floor. I'm like, Maddie, you need to get the vacuum cleaner and sort this out now. And, there's a pile of dishes in the sink. Like, please wash up. I can't do it because I'm just doing my thing right now. And I was like, actually, scrap that. Let's go for a walk. Just doing this dance in my head of like, no, this is actually what I want to do. It was a beautiful sunny day, which was amazing because we've had, floods in the lead up to her arriving. So we went for it's like a 400-meter loop with the dog. And there's a little hill, but I've been doing it throughout pregnancy. So I was like, no, this will be fine. And, early labour, good to walk, good to keep things moving along, progressing. I got 2 to 3 surges on each side of the 400-meter block. And I had to stop and bend over and breathe. And I was like, ooh, these are coming pretty thick and fast. Okay. So we were meant to actually be seeing my birth keeper or doula that morning anyway. I'd asked her to bring over the fetoscope because I just wanted somebody to hear the baby's heartbeat because it had been a while since she was moving and she was really happy and healthy. So I knew everything was fine in there. But it was just, I was kind of craving just somebody checking in. And so I knew that Michelle was going to be on her way at around 10 a.m. And we were like, maybe we should just text her and let her know that things are happening. And so we messaged and then said, but like, don't worry about leaving yet. We'll give you a heads up. It would take her about an hour to get to us. So we knew we had to keep that in the back of our head. So we messaged her just before we went for the walk. And then when we got back from the walk, I said, look, I need to hop in the bath. I'm going to start running the water over me. I think that's going to feel really nice. She's fast asleep. And then Maddie continued to tidy up and do what needed to be done. Madeline was keeping herself entertained, just, playing with her doll's house or whatever. So I could hear her, I could hear him, and I was just doing my thing in the bath. And then I had to get out of the bath. I wanted to go to the toilet again. I came out of the bathroom and I said to Matty, stop what you're doing. I need you to fill up the pool right now. And I at first wasn't sure if I'd know prior, like what I'd want and when I'd want it. And it was just, my body and my mind were just telling me exactly what needed to happen. And I was just like on autopilot in this, I don't know, days almost. So we came down here, we set Madeline up. We had this like blow up camping sofa bed thing, laid out fully as a bed rather than a sofa. And so she sat on there with a computer and some headphones, and we just set her up with a Disney movie while we filled up the pool. And as soon as there was enough water, I was straight in that pool, and it felt fucking amazing. It was incredible just to feel that water support, the pain relief, the weightlessness. I did not want to get out. And so I guess by this time, with Matty telling me and looking at videos and photos and stuff, I think it was around just 7 a.m. So we'd been, they were up at 6, already in the water by 7, feeling like things were quite intense. And so we messaged Michelle again and we're like, actually, can you start heading to us? I think it's time. So she would have, been getting to us about 8 or just after, if she even made it for the birth. That's kind of where we were at with it. And I had no idea, how long's a piece of string. You have no idea how long you're in for, but like just surrendering to the process, being in the water. It felt really good to be on my knees. So every time a surge came, I would be on my knees, dangled over the side. I'd got Matty to pass me one of my little crocheted face washers, and I was just holding that against me, which felt really nice. And then, Mads decided that she wanted to get in the pool. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. So it was quite a small one. And so she was right up close next to me. And so there were a few times where I was in a surge and I'd be like, just give mommy some space, trying to breathe and do the thing. But it was maybe a good distraction too. And just her energy, she was living her best life, like splashing around and just having a fab old time. We had like a coconut yogurt container and she was like pouring water on my back and then having a little splash. And it was really nice to have her energy there. There was a point where I thought, oh, should I call my mom to come and get her? But then I thought, no, actually, I do want her here. And we let her lead. She wanted to be there. She hadn't asked to leave. She was very happy to stay. And then that was the main reason we contacted Michelle, because I needed my husband, and it was good to have that extra person there to keep an eye on our toddler and make sure that she was happy. But when Michelle, just before Michelle arrived, or some point before Michelle arrived, I had decided in this labour that I really wanted to be, empowered to know what was happening in my own body. I felt it's totally my responsibility. I'd given a lot of my power away in my last birth, and I didn't touch myself at all. I didn't know my own progress. I didn't know what was going on down there. I just completely disconnected and disassociated from my own vulva and vagina, which is crazy because there's going to be a baby coming out of there. So this time around, I was like, I'm just going to have a feel and see what's happening. So I put my hand inside, and I remember thinking to myself, I have no idea what I'm feeling for. Am I going to be able to reach my cervix? I don't know how long my vaginal canal or vaginal canal is. I don't know how dilated I am. And then I was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't freaking matter. Birth will happen when birth needs to happen, regardless of how many centimeters dilated my cervix is. So I was like, okay, curious. That's what it feels like. Pull my hand back out, carried on labouring. And then I turned to Matty, I said, just so you know, I'm about to poo in the pool. I knew it was going to happen, but I don't know. I just felt the need to give him a heads up. He saw me poo in our last birth, and I was like, this is just what needs to happen. Everything I need to fully surrender, let go, soften, open up. He's like, are you sure you don't want to go to the toilet? I'm like, are you for real? But I was so suggestive at that point. I was like, sure, I'll hop out the pool and I'll give it a go. So luckily we have a toilet down here. Hobbled my way to the bathroom, couple of surges on the way there. Sitting on the toilet was the most uncomfortable thing ever. Everything felt so heavy after being in the water and just so uncomfortable. I don't think I even managed to get a poo out. And then I came back, got in the water. I was like, okay, this is bliss. This is good. It was good to have the contrast, I think. And then about probably 10 or 15 minutes later, Michelle arrived. We've got a little curtain that kind of pulls across, and I heard her open the door, and I was calling out in this little voice, hello, hello. It was almost like this, knowing that she was in the building was just this sense of relief for me. I don't know why, because I knew that I could do it, but just having somebody that trusts in birth and trusts in me and has belief in me to be able to do this, it was amazing just having somebody like that in our birthing team. So I know she likes to like sneak in and do her thing and like scout around first before she knows what's happening and where everybody is. So she didn't reply, but she opened the curtain and then she could see what was happening. And then she, just came over and she got down like low below my level and just grabbed my hand, and she's just like, I'm like, it's happening, we're doing it. And so she put her stuff down and she was there, and just my 3Ms, my crew were all there. And I felt safe, I felt supported, I felt really comfortable and ready. And so I guess, I was just continuing on the journey for a little bit, and then it wasn't long after Michelle arrived that I put my hand in again and I could feel the head. It was right there. Oh my God, I'm going to start crying. I couldn't believe it at first. I was like, that feels different to how it did before, and it's hard. And I was like, and I'm talking to like everyone in the room, whoever will listen to me, maybe myself out loud. And I'm, going, that's a hard surface. That must be her head. And there's hair there. That's amazing. And I remember feeling like smushy stuff on top of her head. And I kind of looked across at Michelle and I was like, just self-confirming, I think, just saying out loud, what is that smushy stuff? Is that the cord? No, that's the skin on the top of her head, because her head is like smushed into my canal. It's just the skin. It's just her head right there. So in my head, it was almost like this, okay, well, we're good. No cord prolapse. Like there's a clear path above her head. All guns blazing, like, let's just do this. And then, I missed an important thing there. Before that happened, I felt my waters release in the pool. So I got this pop, which I had with Madeline, so it was a familiar feeling, being in the water, having that pop, feeling the release and the relief, and seeing the little floaties in the pool. I was like, cool, okay. So that would have helped her drop down. So then when I put my hand inside, that makes sense why I could feel her head and the skin on the top of her head. So I just let my body do its thing. I just, kept going. And I had a couple of wooden combs, just cheap ones I'd bought from Kmart that I'd written little affirmations on, and that really helped with the pain gateway process, I think it's called. But anyway, it was really good pain relief. So I was using my breathing, I was pressing the combs, I was in the water, and I had to be reminded by both Maddie and Michelle to soften my shoulders and to do my horse lips, loose lips up top, loose lips down below, to just keep everything. Because I think I was starting to try and force it. I'm like, but she's right there. I can feel her. She's so close. Let's, make this happen. Let's get her out. And having them remind me to slow down and to soften and to follow her lead was really important, because I was a bit gung-ho. I think I was treating it a bit like a workout. And it didn't need to be rushed. It just needed to happen. I just needed to let my body do what it needed to do and involuntarily bear down rather than controlling any kind of like push or forceful thing. And so laboring, I mean, this is a lot of information for between 8:30 and 9:45 when she was born, but I guess it was so surreal. It felt like a lot longer to me because I was really in it. I wasn't really aware of what was happening time-wise. But I do remember things were starting to get really intense down there. And I felt in again at that point where I was like starting to get a bit of burning sensation. So I'm like, oh, ring of fire. I've not felt this before. This is exciting. And I know we're close. So I put my hand there again. Her head was really low down. And that's when I again started trying to push and force. And Michelle was like, she needs time, let her do her thing. So I just kind of sat down and rested against the edge of the pool for a bit on my bum and just, let the next surge come. And as it did, I had to get back up onto my knees. And I think there were a couple of reasons why I really like that position. One, gravity was helping to do its thing. And two, it felt better to be in that forward position, like relaxing over the side of the pool. Otherwise, being back on my butt was really uncomfortable with that intense sensation down there. So I kind of started to feel that ring of fire again. And I think she started to turtleneck a little bit, doing her thing, like slowly stretching my perineum and doing what she needed to do to make her way out. And I had a really big surge where I felt the need to really bear down and just push hard, hard, hard. And I knew that her head was so close. And I was like, I think her head's out. And it wasn't. And Matty did not have the heart to tell me. He just kept his mouth shut because he was behind me. Madeline had hopped back in the pool at some point, and I had said, look, I really need you to hop out again, because she was right. Like, I could feel the baby was close. She was close. And Madeline was like kicking her legs right next to my vagina or right next to my vulva. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. I can't concentrate. So she hopped out. But then when I started to feel things again, she came back to the side of the pool, and she was like ready and watching and moving around. So Maddie was behind me, and Madeline, you can see her in the video. She's like moving all angles to try and get back in the pool. And so I then felt down, and I'm like, oh no, her head's not out. Okay, just going to chill for a bit. Gave it a second. And then when the next surge came, I hopped back up, still like ring of fire burning. I put my right knee up, and I'd been doing knees in, ankles out up until that point over the side. And I moved my right foot up, and I felt like I had much more space. Would you like some more? Mm-hmm. Here we go, baby. Here we go. I think she's all right, actually. Thank you. And sorry, let me just get my train of thought back. So the next surge came, I hopped back up. I had my right knee up, my left knee down, and I had heaps more space. And I put my hand down to my vulva, and I could feel her head was right there. And it was almost like I needed that physical feedback from myself. Because everything was just burning. I didn't know how far out she was, and I needed to know in order to feel how much energy to give to that surge. And so I could feel her head was right there. I could feel everything stretching. I was panting to kind of slow things down a bit, but it was a long surge, and I just bared down, and out came her head. But halfway through that surge, I put my hand down to support myself. And so I wasn't sure if it had fully come out yet. And so I called out to Maddie, who was behind me. I was like, she's coming. Her head's right there. And then I was like, what's happening? Tell me what's happening. He's like, her head's out. He was just so calm and quiet the whole time, which was amazing. And probably like awestruck, because he's just looking down at my back end and seeing his baby's head coming out. I would have loved to have had a GoPro on his head. It would have been amazing to just like see what he was seeing. And yeah, so I put my hand down, and I was like, oh my God, her head's there, and there's so much hair. And then there was a gap, there was a break, probably could have been like 90 seconds to 2 minutes between that and the next surge. So I was just kind of hanging out, and Michelle came and bent down in front of me, and I was like, she's almost here. I couldn't contain myself. You hear of all these like really quiet people who birth their babies, and I was very vocal, roaring my baby out. No control over it. It was just all happening. And I was back on both knees for a second, and then I felt another surge coming, and I'm like, okay, this is the one I need to get the body out. But just before that happened, I was like, oh my God, I can feel her wriggling. She was literally turning inside of me. I could feel her shoulders moving. And so I lifted my left knee up. So it's like kind of switch sides. And then the next surge, big roar. And you can hear in the video, I like trail off at the end of the roar. It's like, okay, she's out now. Like the instant relief of, oh, the baby's out. And I was like calling to Matty, keep her under the water, because we were, orchestrating this ourselves. So it was like I was communicating with him. He was communicating with me. Somehow I managed to swivel, lifted my left leg up, all the way over the umbilical cord and him as he's bringing the baby up to me through, and I like plonk onto my butt, lean against the side of the pool, and she is like on my chest before I even know what's happening. It was incredible. And she, like she was here. She was literally here. I'm like looking at her, I'm scanning her, and you know, he's suggesting like, should we give her breaths? Because we'd done a resus course to arm ourselves with any knowledge and information we might have needed. But she looked fine. She was just quiet. She didn't cry straight away. But she was looking around at all of us and taking it all in and feeling skin to skin. And then all of a sudden, she must have cleared her airways, and then just this little like, we just like, she's here, she's happy, she's healthy, and it was just amazing. It was incredible. I mean, I didn't hear it at the time because I was too busy saying, I did it, and like leaning my head against the side of the pool as I was ready to receive her. But Matty actually said something like, oh my God, she's amazing. And you can hear it in the video afterwards, and it's so beautiful. Like he's holding her as I'm flipping over and just taking a moment to gaze at her, and then, yeah, up she comes. And then Madeline's hopping around behind me, like trying to grab her, going, it's my baby, she wants me. Trying to get her. It was so cute. Her cord was pretty short. I could feel it pulling against like the front of my vagina. So I was like kind of slouching down and just had her against me. But we let Madeline hop back in the pool. I said to Matty to hop in, but I think he was a bit worried because it was a small pool and a lot of water in there. I think he was worried it was going to spill over. But we were in no rush. We just got to enjoy her and just be together as a family. And it was amazing. Oh my God, I did it. Oh, baby girl. Oh, baby girl. Oh, baby girl. Hi. So I hung out in the pool for a little bit, and, you know, I had this vision of me birthing my placenta reasonably. I knew it could take a while. But, you know, you just kind of have this vision of, oh, maybe it'll come out while I'm still in the birth pool and I can have it floating next to me in the silver bowl and do the thing. But because the cord was quite short, I was actually quite uncomfortable being in the pool still. So I thought, you know what, there's enough stuff floating around in here already. I'm going to hop out. So, yeah, Michelle and Matty helped me hop out, and I came and they set up like a beautiful bed of towels and blueies for me to come and lay on top of. And we did some skin to skin, and I let her do a breast crawl, and she found the boob pretty quick, and just kind of hung out for a bit. And then I started to get some after pains, but really nothing to what I thought they were going to be. I've heard subsequent children can be quite painful, and I was very, lucky, whatever word you can think of there, but it wasn't that bad for me at all. So I was very blessed there. But it did start to feel quite heavy, like into my lower back at one point. And I said, oh, maybe I'll go to the toilet and sit on the toilet for a bit and see if I can birth the placenta there. So with Matty and Michelle's help, I kind of hobbled baby and everything still attached to the bathroom. And I sat there for a bit. Michelle suggested turning the light off, just kind of getting back into that same environment of, you know, where you birth your baby is safer and more supported, so that's going to be easier to birth the placenta. She brought me a cup of tea, and so I was just sitting there breastfeeding Saskia and drinking my cup of tea in the dark, and having a little moment, kind of a ritual, I guess, talking to the placenta and saying thank you so much for everything, and it's time for me to release you now. I'm ready to let you go. Let's not drag this out. But I'd not been through like a physiological third stage before, so I really didn't know what to expect. And I sat there for a while, and I'm like, this is not very comfortable either. So, you know, after about 10 minutes, I was like, no, I think I'm going to go and lay down. The placenta's not ready to release yet. I lost a few clots, and everything was moving as it should be, but I just wanted to lay down and relax after the work I had done. And so, yeah, just chilled out for a bit, and then me and Matty hung out while Michelle kept Madeline entertained. And then I came to a kneeling position. So we set up a bluey on the floor with a mat underneath. And put the baby on the bed, the sofa bed, and I just knelt over the top of her, and just, I guess, the oxytocin of looking at her and just connecting and having that time together, without having to worry, about too much else going on. I really was like, I need to pee. And just before Michelle had gone upstairs, she's like, just do it there. Just wee on the bluey. It's a pee pad. And so I kept trying and nothing was coming out. And then I eventually lifted up this is the position for me. I lifted up 1 foot. So I was like in that half kneeling position again, and it just plopped out. It was insane. So that was like 2 hours and 20 minutes after the birth, or almost 2.5 hours after the birth. And it was such a relief. Like, it just felt so good to like, okay, well now my husband can have his first cuddle with the baby without me being like 2 foot away. And it was really nice. I went to the toilet on my own and I did like a 5-minute wee, literally like the biggest wee ever. So I think my bladder was maybe blocking the path a little bit, but yeah, just getting into that knee up position, just let everything open up again. And my cervix did what it needed to do. And I was able to then just, enjoy my baby and just lay there with my family. And we got to do a cord burning ceremony, which my daughter helped us start. And then she got a bit bored because it takes a while. So then she went and played upstairs, and it took us 20 minutes to like have that beautiful thank you ceremony, to like really take that opportunity to revere the placenta rather than just like snip, see ya, burn, off you go. It was amazing. I was quite emotional actually having that opportunity, and I feel like our family is complete now. So apart from a boy dog, apparently, that's what we're getting, according to my husband. But just, it was really emotional for me to have that moment of like, this is our family, we're all here, and I'm saying goodbye to the thing that kept my baby nourished. The reason we chose to burn rather than do a lotus birth was because I wanted to encapsulate my placenta. I find big benefit in my mental health and physical health by doing that. So just as a personal preference, that was what felt right for us. And so, we let the cord kind of stay connected for as long as we had time for. And then we knew the placenta was going to need to be refrigerated at a certain point. So we made the cord burning happen and got that all packed up and ready to be collected. So, it was amazing. It was smooth. So smooth. The first time that I held her, and even just knowing that she was there, like she was out of me and my husband was holding her, and it happened so quickly, but it happened so slow at the same time. And I just remember being so blown away that I did it, that women can birth their babies like this. And I was lost for words, but just, as I was saying, I did it. There was so much elation and just a lot of adrenaline, I think, still coursing through my body, but very, very emotional. There were definitely tears of joy, of disbelief. Like I actually couldn't believe I had done it. I knew I was going to do it because I had to, but just, it was, I think because it was such a contrast to what I'd experienced before. And that was still like, an amazing birth. Like I got to hold my baby and she was happy and healthy. And I think there were a lot of things that weren't on my terms. And we only got to unpack that later, much later. Whereas this was just bliss, like pure bliss. We didn't have anybody intercepting. And even if we had the midwife we'd chosen, she is actually one of the best midwives in Brisbane. And so I was actually like really sad to make the decision to not have her there, because she would have been amazing and she would have been another Michelle. But taking that really empowered decision and that full ownership of what I was doing, knowing that if something wasn't going right, we would have been in the car and straight to the hospital. We would have been there in less than 10 minutes. But knowing that I had done it, knowing that I was capable, it was so healing. It was just like, magic is the word that comes to mind. I don't know how else to really describe it. Having my husband there to support me as much as he did, such a protective rock, so much strength coming from him in such a really nurturing way. It was so beautiful. And then for my daughter, even though she doesn't think she had a traumatic birth. Like, she's happy as Larry and living her best life. But I feel like it was healing for all of us, for my husband, for me, for Madeline, to see birth normalized. And then I guess I haven't really spoken about this part yet, but I hadn't shared with my mum that we'd chosen to birth unassisted prior, because I didn't want her to worry. I knew that she would have worried about me. But once I've now shared with her, and she said, good decision not to tell me. Thank you for telling me afterwards, because I would have worried about you. But well done, you did it. And the more I talk about it with my mom, it's like, it's a really healing, transformational experience for her too, because she did have 4 vaginal births in the system. And the more we unpack her stories, I think there is a little bit of stuff there that she, gets to work through now. And it's like, this is helping to heal wounds all the way through my ancestral line and for all women everywhere. And I'm really, really passionate now about sharing this story about home birth. And, I know free birth isn't for everybody. It's what feels safest for you, and you get to choose your team, finances allowing. And it was such a life-changing experience for me. I literally feel like I have been reborn. I don't think there's any words to describe it. I'm so proud of myself. I did it. And I've got mascara everywhere.
It was really just such a very natural, very beautiful experience doing it here. So relaxed, I think, is the easiest way or best way to say it. It was calm. It was just the way it was meant to be, right? Like, it just seemed so natural, and it was just, I want to say it was easy, which is probably not the best thing to say, but it just seemed to flow easily. I think it was smooth.
And I mean, he is a very calm and relaxed person, so I think he felt at home. Whereas I think in the hospital, we both felt a bit out of our depth.
Oh, definitely. It was smooth until we had to leave here, and then it was like scary. I think is the easiest way to say that. It was definitely a very different experience. And knowing, I think, that we never had to transition or do anything. It was just, we were here and we knew we were here, and it didn't matter how long it took. I think that almost made it go faster as well. The fact that it was like, there was no pressure on anything but, hey, we're going to have a baby. Whenever that happens, whether that's in 20 minutes or in 20 hours, whatever comes, and we'll just deal with that because we're here and we've got everything we need to have right here. So, it was a really, really beautiful experience.
And in terms of his prep, he was amazing. Like, every step of the way, if I suggested that, we needed to do an online course for baby resus and I was too emotional to watch it, he would do it, and he had my back with everything. When I said, we're going to home birth, he's like, yeah, of course. And then I said, okay, now I'm going to get rid of the midwife. He's like, okay, I support you. I trust you. I believe in you. You've got this. You're the one that gets to do this. And, he might have had some fears, but he dealt with them himself. Like, we didn't really have to talk about anything. He was really an amazing support. Absolute rock. It's definitely been easier this postpartum. We've more clearly defined our roles as what's happening, managing other things. And we're working really well together as a team. So I wonder if, how we work together through the pregnancy, the labour and the birth has set us up for this success now in this postpartum phase. So yes, to a degree, but I think we had the foundation. We didn't have to do as much work as maybe somebody else who might have chosen to do what we did and maybe didn't feel as close or secure in that decision.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things about running a business together is that we've done a lot of personal and business growth together, including extra coaches and extra courses and curriculum that we had to kind of go through, which helped us to grow together as business owners, as a couple, and individually as well. I think the biggest thing was, it was like, I was so proud of Stacey and everything that she had accomplished. I think obviously, like in the lead up to it, there was definitely a lot of doubt in Stacey's head that she had voiced on many occasions, and to just see it happen and come to fruition so easily was really, really beautiful. And it was rewarding for me as a husband, but also you can see how empowering it was for her as a mum, but as a woman as well. Catching Saskia was incredible. It's interesting, but it was kind of just like you imagine it would be, I guess, which might be weird to say, but having that fatherly love that you get to witness from the first one was pretty incredible. And then obviously you just almost double your heart to be able to have a second one. And so, yeah, she came out and it was pretty cool because really I was the first one that got to see her. I was the first one that got to, and the first view I had of her was her mouth wide open, like almost like she was screaming underwater, like, help. And I got her and then passed her through to Stacey, and it was really beautiful. It was night and day difference. It was calm, it was peaceful, it was really natural and beautiful. Whereas the other situation, we literally had a birth out of fear. We were told that if Stacey didn't do her job within 3 pushes, that she was going for an emergency cesarean by the end of it. And this is after fighting for hours on end to try to not have a cesarean. So we were constantly on the back foot there, having to defend ourselves and what we actually wanted. Whereas here, we didn't have to do any of that. And because we had time as a gift here, we didn't have that on the other end. It meant that there was no pressure here. Whereas last time it was full pressure. It was like she was going for a gold medal or something, and she had to get this, otherwise she was going to miss out on the gold medal, and it was just absolutely extreme. Whereas this time it was just birth. It was just what it was meant to be.
I think another big difference was not having my baby taken away from me. I think that's something that's going to stay with me forever, is the fact that she could, and the research that I've done since then is like, she should have stayed connected to her placenta on me. Being skin to skin with her mum was the best place for her to be. They could have done all the jiggling and the warming that they needed to do right there on me. But having her snipped as quickly as she was, taken under a heat lamp like that will stay with me. That is just an uncomfortable feeling.
We'd requested multiple times for delayed cord clamping. It wasn't taken into consideration, really.
Fear overcame, policy overcame their situation in that moment, and they did what they believed needed to be done based on, I don't know, the system. But just knowing she took a while to come, to voice anything, to do anything, everything was fine. That I feel like that was taken away from me now, having that black and white contrast. Obviously she's here and she's happy and she's healthy, but yeah, I think it's just really opened my eyes to now how different. And then I didn't have the opportunity to have a physiological third stage, so getting to birth my placenta this time was, challenging but really rewarding. And whereas last time, because I'd had Syntocin in my system, then, they put the Synto in to get the placenta out, and I don't even remember it happening. Like, that was all happening while I was cuddling my baby with my feet up in stirrups. So just so different. Even like the birth pool, I've had a couple of women reach out since they saw me posting up about my home birth, and they say, I'm doing a water birth in the hospital. Do you have any advice for me? I'm like, organize some kind of padding for your knees, because those pools are not comfortable. They are hard. I don't know what they're made of. I'm not a plumber, but they're hard, uncomfortable baths. Take some matting, because towels don't cut it. Like an inflatable pool is the go. It's just so comfortable and so supportive. You literally feel like you're floating. But yeah, I guess in terms of, like people rushing around, people in the room that we didn't know versus no one in the room other than us, there's so many differences. Yeah. I shared my birth story last night in an online women's circle, and somebody asked me the same question, and I realised that I actually haven't had any grief. Talking about it then momentarily, yes, and I think that's healing now. That's part of her path and her journey. But I haven't had grief per se where I've been like, oh my goodness, that was, I think I did a lot of that prior as part of my pregnancy work in the lead up to the labour and birth. A lot of the books that I read, like Sacred Birthing and Placenta, the Forgotten Chakra, and a lot of those books triggered a lot of that stuff. And I'd be telling Matty like, oh, this happened, and then I'd journal about it, and I'd process a lot of that stuff and that grief prior, knowing how different even the planning and the prep was going, and how much I've changed. And I don't think I could have done what I did this time last time. Like, that for me needed to happen for me to be on this journey now. So I think everything has happened as it was meant to, but also as an opportunity to now be able to share for others so that they don't have to go through any of the trauma that I feel like I did go through. They get to choose a different story, and they don't have to have that contrast. They get to just have birth without all the Russian roulette of the hospital and trying to deal with all of that. So we had friends that birthed in the hospital this week, and they had what looked like a water birth and a very pleasant experience, but it is Russian roulette. You don't know who you're going to get. You don't. So they maybe have been lucky, but I really don't like even using that word, because when you do the prep and you do the work, there's no luck there. And yeah, having had the challenging experience we had and then being able to contrast it now, yeah, you know, a lot of people have seen my photos and been like, oh, it's good that nothing bad happened, or, you know, it's like, no, why would it? Like, everything, it was a low risk birth, and, you know, we've pulled apart the other story and why things went a bit downhill for us, and we ended up with intervention. And now, knowing what we know and having done the work we've done, if we could go back in time, we probably would have a different outcome, but it's done now. And yeah, as I said, we get to share it and hope that it helps other people. So she knew her birth date for a reason. She made us wait a fair while, but yeah, we did have the floods here in Brisbane, and if she had come even just a week earlier, neither our birth keeper, Michelle, or if we had stayed with our midwife care, neither of them would have been able to get to us. So we actually would have had to free birth. And so it's almost like we did all this prep by choice. And, you know, I'm very grateful and thankful and blessed that we did, because potentially it set us up for what could have almost been the need to free birth, and we had the tools with us. So I do encourage all pregnant mamas to, you know, empower themselves to do the work, to do the research, to learn what they can about physiological labour and birth, and know that you can't do it on your own. Yes, it's nice to have the team there, and Michelle was incredible support for our toddler. She cleaned up the pool afterwards. You know, she did all of those beautiful things, made sure that everything was good before she left. But if she hadn't been there, we also would have been okay. And that is, yeah, really amazing for us to know, and I think hopefully powerful for other birthing women to hear and know.